Today I'm going to show you what's inside of the BMW N54 engine and how it works. Now this engine is an inline 6 3-liter engine. It's twin turbocharged. It actually marks the first foray for BMW into modern turbocharging. This particular one is out of an E90 with 160,000 kilometers on it. Now these engines have become notorious for being unreliable. This particular one has low compression in cylinder number 6. So we're going to tear this engine down to see just how they fail. Taking a quick look around this engine, you see we've got a plastic valve cover and a plastic intake. We've got an aluminum head, as well as a block, a lower oil pan, and upper oil pan that are all made of aluminum alloys. Coming around the front here, there isn't really much of a timing cover that I can remove. You kind of have to slide the timing chains out the top here through the slot. You got the oil filter at the top, nice and accessible. And if you notice by the angle of that oil pan, this engine sits on a slant just like most BMWs. And hidden just under that slant here is your twin turbochargers. Each of them will be responsible for 3 cylinders. Now this engine is more or less stripped down already. So I'm going to start by pulling the intake off. Now looking down inside of the intake there, you can see that this definitely has been cleaned out because these engines are notorious for carbon buildup. Next up, I'm going to pull off this valve cover. There's a bunch of E-Torx 10mm bolts. Here's the head. Stuff is missing. They stole a lot of parts. So I didn't realize, but there's actually a lot of parts missing from this engine, including the camshafts that would attach up to here. You got the hydraulic lifters as well as the rocker arms that are going to push down on these valves. And of course the cam caps that come over here to attach the valves. And one thing that makes this N54 different from the N52 is that there's no valve lift adjustment with that giant motor that sits on top of here. Now in the N52, that motor is going to prescribe how much lift is allowed, which controls the amount of air that goes in, so your throttle body doesn't really do anything. In this case, it does use a simple throttle body to allow how much air to go in. That's because it's turbocharged and they can control it a little bit better with the wastegates, if the wastegates are working. Now what also makes this engine unique is that there's direct injection. The injectors would go down into these lower holes over here, while the spark plugs would go up to here. That means you don't have gasoline going into the intake stream, and that causes carbon buildup. Don't even get me started on the high pressure fuel pump issues and the leaky ejector issues that this engine had, so much so that BMW acknowledged it and actually extended their warranty on those injectors because they're pretty expensive. I'm going to remove this oil filter housing at the top here. Surprised there's no oil leaking out, and there's no oil cooler on this. 2 little oil control valves here that I'm going to remove. This is for the intake and exhaust variable valve timing. Now before I can get the head off, I got to remove this little cassette thing that looks like a timing chain slide assembly. It does have a stud over here and an access point over here, which is a hex. Make sure I clean that out so it doesn't strip, and then I can get that out. Crack that loose and just knock this guy loose, and then take out this stud. Does this come out now? But the head is free to come off because you can just lift it right off. So let's do that. There's 2 head bolts here that are E12. Alright, so the head bolts on these are T60 Torx. Alright, we'll zip the T60s off. As if 2 wasn't enough already, BMW's put a 3rd size of head bolt in here, which is a Torx T50. And I'll just zip those off. There we are. Take the head gasket off here. Alright, so I can definitely see where the problem lies. You can see all of these cylinders here look nice and dark. Lots of carbon buildup, but when you get to cylinder number 6, you can see it's nice and clean, which definitely means something with the gasket was leaking here, allowing coolant to enter the cylinder and clean it off. And the same thing is iterated inside of the block here. You can see all of these cylinders have lots of carbon buildup, but when you reach number 6, it's nice and clean. I can also see that it looks kind of shiny here where the valves are, so I wonder if there was any piston to valve contact. The other valves kind of look like they're shiny too, but not that much. There's also a little bit of extra play here that I don't really like. Moving now over to the front of the engine, you can see it's absolutely coated in oil, which is a typical BMW. What would be a BMW without it being coated, leaking, burning oil? It's likely due to the valve cover being cracked or leaking. That's super common on a BMW. Now the camshafts themselves will actually drain back down into the pan, so there's no external leaking from that. See if I can get this crank off here. Try. Oh. It literally does fall off. I'm going to see if I can get this timing set out of here. There's an 8mm hex, and there's a little T45 in here. Then I can remove this bit. The chain itself kind of stays in there. We're going to go ahead and turn the engine over and work on the bottom. I made a sacrifice, got a couple of my old work pans here and put it down just in case any oil or coolant falls out. Now the oil pan on these are an aluminum alloy, which is good because it won't rust. The drain port is over here, but you notice that there's no dipstick. That's because it uses this electronic sensor that you have to access inside the car in order to tell you the oil level. As I mentioned before, this engine kind of sits tilted in the engine bay, and that's why you have this weird shape over here. And this big hump over here is for the axle that passes through here for the all-wheel drive system, with the differential located on the other side there. And these are all E-Torx, E12 millimeter. One thing to note, BMW is using aluminum alloy fasteners, which means that they're really super light, but they're also pretty easy to strip out. I think this oil pan's been off before. I'll just pop that right off. I notice there's no dowels that hold this thing in place. So it must be a pain to change this oil pan gasket while it's in the car. Taking a look underneath this oil pan here, you can see things are pretty clean, which either means that the coolant's mixed through here and made things nice and clean and cleaned up all the tarnish, or this engine's had pretty good oil change intervals. You'll see here we do have a metal oil collector here. Over here we have the oil pickup tube, which is unfortunately made of plastic, but there is a strainer down inside of there. Here is the oil pump. So I'm going to go ahead and use this T45 to zip this off while it's still got tension on it. If I got it now. Yes. We'll zip that off. So the pump itself is held on by E12 Torx. Oh, nice long bolts to go right through. And I'm going to go ahead and remove all the E10s that hold this bed plate on here. Off the pickup tube here. Pull this bed plate out. I'm going to remove these two E10s here. And then we can check out that oil pump. Feels pretty hefty. We'll check that out later. Kind of interesting how they have these little access ports for the bolts that are inside of here. They could have just made a proper timing cover. At least they don't have to deal with timing cover leaks though. Next up, there's a bunch of E14s going all the way around for this aluminum upper oil pan here that I'm going to take off next. Before I pull this upper oil pan, I got to pull the pistons out. So we're going to remove these E12 connecting rod bolts. Right now I'm going to run these free. I'm going to pop these connecting rods off. Oh, these bearings are damaged. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pop these pistons out. Alright, so we got a couple of issues here. First of all, the connecting rod bearings don't look too healthy at all. You can see a lot of the coating is worn off and there's a lot of wear on there. This engine only had 160,000 kilometers or so. And then we come to piston number 6 here, which you remember is nice and clean, probably because it was sucking in coolant. You'll see though that the oil control ring is completely missing, but then when you turn it over, boom, look at that. That is complete failure over there. All the ringlands have busted through, and that means that all of your compression from this side here is just going to push right down into the sump. There's obviously going to be no compression over here, and this being so close to the head gasket, I could see the particles here causing that to fail, sucking in extra coolant. I think someone's put a little bit too much boost on this engine, and that's what caused it to blow. Alright, next up I'm going to loose off these 17mm main cap bolts here. I'm going to zip these bolts off. Now, luckily these main bolts are made of steel and not aluminum like the other ones. Alrighty, it's time to see if we missed any bolts. I do like how they're using a full ladder frame design here with all these bolts supporting the strength of the bearings, as opposed to having the bearings separate and then the oil pan around it. I think that'll lend to the strength of this engine, especially when you start to boost it really high. Pull off that front seal there. The BMW had a problem with these, especially more so in the N52s, and that is this engine leaks so much oil that it eats out the serpentine belt, and when that shreds, this front seal here actually sucks it into the engine, and then it goes into the engine pickup tube and starves the engine of oil. That was a pretty bad issue. Now, these are one of the stupidest designs that I don't like personally on these BMW engines. The fact that they don't have a proper timing cover so you can take off all the timing components. In this case here, they just have a big loop going around it, which means that you have to install your timing chains on both the oil pump and for the camshafts, and then put the crankshaft in. We've also got another hidden bolt over here that holds this little holder in that we have to remove, and then the entire assembly with this little holder here is going to come out. Crack that cap loose. Of course, that cap is probably going to be another source for oil leaks. I mean, you might as well just go with a full timing cover in that case. And there's a bolt here, probably another T45 with a gear here that spins the vacuum pump at the back here. Alright, I got a screwdriver jammed in here. This is a T55. No. Well, I tried the big gun on there and I broke all the timing components. So at least the chain can come off, but I still can't get the vacuum pump to come out. Alright, and with all that loose, I should be able to pull this crankshaft out. By the way, the timing chain is just a single roller design. Alright, wish me luck. I'm going to get this block off of the stand here so we can have a closer look at it. Oh, it's actually pretty light. That's not bad for an inline six. So now that we've got all the components removed from the engine, let's take a quick look at how it works. Now we're going to start at the bottom of the engine here where we have the oil pan. Now the first thing I do like is that there's no RTV, which means it's easy to peel off, especially because you're inevitably going to be replacing this oil pan gasket. And let's face it, it's a BMW, all of the oil seals leak, and that's just a common issue with all of them. Looking down inside of here, you can see the oil pan drain as well as that oil level sensor. Although most of the oil pan is clean, there was a lot of sediments that went inside of here. I wonder if any of that metal material from the piston made it down here. Alright, sitting inside of that oil pan is this plastic pickup tube. Now I do notice one or two tiny little scraps of foreign material in there, but other than that it's pretty clean. Now connecting to that is the oil pump where it sucks in oil from here. There's a bunch of T30s here. I'm going to open this up. Now this pump says Austria on it, and we were taught in history class that Germany and Austria weren't exactly friends, so I don't know what's going on there. There we go. Vane style oil pump. Yo, that's cool. It's a variable oil pump, but it's spring controlled. It's not actually computer controlled like a lot of modern vehicles. So here's how this oil pump works. Inside of here we have a spring, and that's going to be pushing down over here on this little plunger, which in turn is going to be changing the position of the barrel around the vanes. So you can see here, if I push it all the way down, it's going to give you maximum oil flow, which means that when oil comes in over here, it has to be squeezed through these veins and then pushed out. Of course, when you put the plunger back up, then you're just going to have regular oil flow over here. Because it's not being squeezed that much, you're just going to have a simple basic oil flow system. Oops. Well, there goes all the veins. But here's the barrel, and you can see all the little veins inside of there. Having a baby is pretty handy because you can get all these nice strong boxes and dump all your car parts in them. Now moving on, now this is the upper oil pan, or you can call it the ladder frame. It's made of a much stronger aluminum alloy. It feels way heavier. Now that oil pan that we were dealing with actually bolts up over here and is going to provide that fluid flow down through to the block and then eventually straight up to the head where the oil filter is. And of course, how can we talk about BMW without talking about the inline 6 engines? Now BMW's been doing turbocharging from way back, but the N54 engine, which came out around 06-07, was really their first foray into modern turbocharging engines. You'll see first of all you've got 7 main bearings over here on the crankshaft, and of course your 6 connecting rod bearings. And just like a 4-cylinder, you do have your pair, 2 in the middle, 2 on the outsides over here, and then 2 on the extremities that are on the same angle as each other. But unlike 4-cylinder engines and also V6s and even V8s, these engines are perfectly balanced in their first and secondary forces, which is the reason why most luxury car makers move towards these, because they're just so smooth and refined. The other thing is most luxury cars are oriented longitudinally. You can see just how long this crankshaft is, which means that you have to be set up for a rear wheel drive setup. You can't really use these in economy cars because they're just so long. Even a V8 would be shorter than this. And here's a look at the engine block, and as I've noticed, it's really lightweight, especially for an inline 6. The materials that they've used were definitely ahead of its time. Over here on this side is where the oil feeds go up to the head for the oil filter to plug in. The rest of the block here is a fairly standard open deck design, which I'm kind of surprised. A turbocharged engine like this should probably go with a more closed deck design so that you can lend more strength to the piston wall. Now taking a closer look here, you'll see these are your oil drain backs over here that'll bring oil back down into the sump. But more importantly, check out the damage to cylinder number 6 over here from that piston scraping up and down. You can see here the damage here is what's going to cause that to definitely lose compression and push combustion down into the sump. Kind of like how the block and the oil pan and even the head here is a very nice flat surface. If I stack them up, it would probably make a nice little bench here for when those agitated nephews come over and they have no place to sit. Taking a look under the head here, you can see that we do have, of course, the carbon buildup, with the exception of cylinder number 6. You can see here this is the spark plug hole, and this here is the hole for the injectors. Now the injectors on these engines are known to be very expensive, but of course moving to direct injection allows you to control the combustion a lot more, because you can control combustion temperature and timing as opposed to it just coming through the airstream at the bottom here. The expense of that, of course, is all this carbon that you got built up inside of here, and then sometimes you have to open up the intake and carbon blast it out in order to get some of the carbon from stucking the valves, or you could just push the turbo a little too hard, break the ring lines, and then you get a free cleaning service when all that coolant leaks down in your cylinder. But of course you're probably not going to like the repair bill for that. Now it is a BMW, so another thing that would contribute to oil burning or carbon buildup is of course these valve stems leaking. Basically oil from the head underneath is going to leak down into the combustion chamber, and you'll notice that by a lot of black smoke when you start up, or a lot of consumption of oil. Now looking at the exhaust ports here, I don't have the turbochargers, but they are twin turbocharged, so there'll be one here and one over here. Now while the turbochargers themselves are pretty expensive, the labor is really what kills you, because this is located in a very tight compact area inside of the engine, and you got to take apart a lot of things just to get to it. Now by the time the turbochargers burn out, the car is generally a bit older, and a lot of people just opt to go for aftermarket turbochargers, which will give you a really good increase in power with just a simple tune. Now check out how the exhaust ports for all the other cylinders are pretty dry, but then when you come to cylinder number 6 here, everything is pretty wet, and that's again probably from the blow-by bringing in a lot of oil and coolant mess inside of the cylinder. Now, I wonder what happened to the turbocharger that was attached here, if that one also blew as well. Now I'm the type of guy who likes to take things apart, and I don't really fix stuff, so you BMW guys down below, please comment. Tell me if you like this timing chain setup where you kind of have to slide the guides and put it in and then put the bolts in from the side. I kind of find it's going to be very cumbersome, especially if you don't have a proper timing cover, but you guys tell me how easy this is compared to a conventional setup. Now there's a giant oil galley that runs along the intake and the exhaust side here for these little hydraulic lifters, and that's going to take up the slack between the camshaft running on top of here and the rocker arm. It's just too bad that I don't have that set up with this engine. And of course those oil galleys are all going to lead up to the front of the engine here where you have the oil filter set up. Now they've brought the oil filters to sit right up on top of the head here, which is pretty convenient. When you open the engine, it's right up top. You have your oil pressure switch over here. I'm a little surprised that there's no built-in oil cooler over here. There might be one little further down on the engine or in front of the vehicle, but there is a giant radiator pipe that runs right through here, so I hope that that helps to cool down the oil, especially this being a turbocharged engine. Now there isn't too much to talk about the intake over here. It's a pretty light unit. The throttle body is going to mount onto here with the boosted air. I'm surprised there's no flaps or any other sensors or anything hanging out on top of this, but then again, it's a turbocharged unit that's all controlled by the wastegate and more computer sensors, so you probably don't need all that. So here's the valve cover. It is made of a composite plastic. And here's the oil filler over here. These engines do take synthetic oil, and when you flip it over, you can see that there's actually two oil seals. You have the one on the inside here for the spark plugs and the injectors, and the one on the outside here, which is the one that's supposed to seal from it soaking the entire engine in oil. But of course, what's a BMW without leaky valve covers? This is actually one big seal. It goes all the way around. I thought it was two separate seals, never mind. And what I do like is that they spent the extra money and time to make these bolts captive so that you don't lose them, because they definitely know you're going to be opening this engine before its lifetime is over. It's actually super clean inside of here. It almost looks like it's brand new. There's no tarnishing or any oil buildup or anything. I wonder if it's already been replaced, because these do have a tendency to crack when they overheat. I'm not surprised if this is actually an aftermarket unit. And that's a look inside of the BMW N54 inline 6 twin turbocharged engine and how it works. Overall, I actually think this engine has a very simple design setup, but of course working on it in the vehicle is going to be a different story with the way they package things. That is with the exception of doing any work related to the timing system. Now if you're going to be buying one of these E90s or a 335 or even a 135, which these engines came in, make sure you check to see if all the technical services bulletins have been up to date and that the engine is clean and all the seals aren't leaking, because those can also add up. Now despite all of that, this engine still has a pretty notorious record for being not reliable, or for just things adding up, costing too much, totaling out the vehicle. If you are looking to pick up a 135, 335, an E90 or whatever these things came in, make sure you check to see that all the service bulletins have been taken care of, especially to deal with the turbocharger and the direct injection setup. Oh yeah, and kids, if you are looking to tune your engine, make sure you don't overdo it, otherwise things like this can happen. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this one.